Hello, greetings. Welcome again. This is United States of Africa official channel, and I'm your host, Daniel Mombonu. Today, I'm going to discuss about the importance of supporting Pan Africanism because Pan Africanism is the only hope for people of African descent around the world. And in order for us to implement our vision, the vision of having a unified African government, one African army, the one African central bank, having African educational systems that respond to the needs of Africans and the needs of people of African descent. We need to be supporting Pan Africanism as a cause because we have so many Pan Africanists that have devoted their time, and this has become a lifetime project working to ensure that Africa is united and the people of African descent come together to the realization that we are one people. When the world is looking at us, they don't say this one is from Africa, so we are going to treat him differently. They don't say this one is from Melanesia, so we are going to treat this person differently. They don't say that this black man is from India, so they'll treat that person differently. We are being treated the same because we are one people, even if we don't realize it. We belong to one nation, and Black people around the world have a common destiny, and we have a shared history. So for us to be able to be able to be completely free, then we have to come together, pull up our strength so that we can begin developing ourselves because we cannot depend on the structures and systems that were not built for us to uplift us. They were built to preserve and protect the interests of the white supremacy. And for us to have the same amount of independence like the white people, we also have to create our own institutions. We have to create our own technologies, create our own communication channels, so that we don't have to complain every time how Facebook is racially discriminating people of African descent, how it's undermining Pan Africanism by limiting even the reach of the live broadcast, making sure that only a few get to see the live broadcast notifications and even the post notifications. We cannot always be complaining what they're doing. We already know that these systems were not built for the interests of people of African descent, and they were just built to exert the white supremacy ideologies. And this is why you see that many of these tools that empower people economically are not available in Africa. They are available in Western countries. For example, the fundraising tools. These tools are only available in developed nations, but in Africa, the only country in Africa that has that tool is South Africa. They're able to fundraise via Facebook, but the rest of Africa cannot be able to fundraise. But how comes that Facebook enable Africans to donate to other causes in Western countries, yet we cannot even fundraise using the Facebook fundraising tools? That tells you that they usually guard to ensure that Africans do not get the economic power because once we unite, we have a lot of economic power, and we can help each other and work to build a prosperous African nation. So we need to create our own technologies, and to create our own technologies, we need Africans who are going to volunteer and say, "I'm going to be in the IT department, work to build these applications." But we also need to have regular support from our followers and those who believe in United States of Africa vision. Without supporting the project economically, it's going to be very difficult for us to implement any of the visions that we're talking about, because to carry out projects, it requires that we mobilize a certain amount of capital. For example, if you want to have an office for the United States of Africa, we basically probably would need some land, or if we are not going to get some land, maybe a plot where we can build an office. And if that is not an option, we'll be required to have a certain amount of money every month to pay for rent. And this is why it's important to support Pan Africanism. And we have provided the information how you can support United States of Africa project. You can support via Patreon and also via PayPal, where you can donate as low as $1 a month. And by doing that, you'll be supporting this project and empowering us to be able to implement all these ideas that we are talking about. Africa has a lot of land, and to cultivate that land, it requires some amount of resources. The bigger the amount of land that we have at our disposal, the much financial muscles it will be required. For example, we have 50 hectares of land in Sierra Leone open for us to cultivate. But for us to cultivate that, we need to mobilize some capital, and this is how Pan-African solidarity becomes very important, because without us coming together and mobilizing the resources, it's going to be very difficult. And this is why it's important for the Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora to support Pan-Africanism. Tammy, you're asking, may you tell us the truth about the existence of coronavirus in Africa and how long Africa should continue to be in a lockdown? Now, yes, regarding the lockdowns, many of these lockdowns are completely unreasonable, but in some countries, they have really helped reduce the spread of the coronavirus, but at the expense of the economic conditions of people. There are many people who are unable to survive because of the coronavirus. If African governments are able to support its citizens, then that will be a different narrative. But we have seen very little support coming from these African governments. So there's need for an African approach in the fight against coronavirus, because adopting the Western style of fighting coronavirus has not worked for Africa and will never work. So as we fight the pandemic, we also need to embrace African solutions. Let us try out the Madagascar cure and embrace African solutions approach. At the same time, increasing caution, maintaining high standard of hygiene and social distancing. I think that is very, very important in the war against coronavirus. We have assist from United States, Shanta Howard. She'll be able to join us in a minute. so that she can also contribute to the discussion. You see the comments here. Good morning, watching from Monrovia, Liberia. Thanks for watching. Please keep on sharing the live broadcast. You can share to your timelines and share to groups. By sharing, you'll be participating in spreading Pan Africanism. If you're joining us on YouTube, kindly subscribe so that you can get involved in future discussions, and you can be part of this vision, because Pan Africanism is about global solidarity, working towards self improvement. And the moment people of African descent begin working together towards self improvement, this is the time that we will begin to rise, because we'll begin to build our own educational institutions, healthcare institutions, and very strong financial institutions. These are very important in us regaining power and control of our natural resources, because without economic power, it's even very difficult to gain control over the land, because you'll be told land is available, but how much are you willing to invest in it? So this is why having financial power is very important. The more financial power we have, the larger the control we have over Africa's natural resources, and we'll be able to establish mining corporations and also factories that process these minerals to add value and produce goods that we can sell and generate some revenue, which will then be reinvested back to the community. Sister Shonta, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So you can contribute your perspective on the importance of the African unity and the need for people of African descent to support Pan Africanism regularly, by way of financial contributions, because I believe that there is no project that runs on just air. At some point, we need some financial support to be able to carry out these activities that you're talking about, have a permanent office, and through that we'll be able to have a center where we can assemble and say this is the office for the United States of Africa, or this is the office for Global Pan Africanism Network.
Yes, so I do agree with you that it is important to establish that financial foundation, right? Because if you think about it, if you think about it from a household's perspective and your household budget, I just want to kind of make the concept of saving and managing our resources, a part of our everyday life. So you manage your budget in your household. We will have a budget to manage. You know what I'm saying?
Can
We
you
would need
put your
capital,
mic,
resources.
your video on so that people can see you?
It's 4 o'clock in the morning here. I
It's
don't know
okay,
if
it's
anyone
okay, it's
wants to see
okay.
me at 4:29.
All right,
Yeah.
just go on.
Yeah. So once we establish that financial foundation, then we can reinvest that capital. So what do you say to people though that don't have the financial resources but may have land, may have buildings, might have other capital resources? We also have to be open to bartering. So as a means to establishing those resources, because if you think about what's happening right now, so what's happening right now is that there's not a whole lot of cash flow flowing through the economy, right? So it's like no one
Yeah.
is purchasing things that they don't need. Okay. So,
Yeah.
how do we encourage people, one, to save their money and to think in the future when they can't even get past today, the expenses of today? So, those are kind of our challenges. So what I want to
Yeah.
do is I want us to appeal to those people that we know have the financial capital resources to acquire land. If they have businesses that are lucrative, that are successful here in the United States and abroad, then yes, all companies, any type of company, nonprofit, they reach out to donors, they reach out to benefactors, we reach out to those people that understand our mission, understand that it's time for us to unify, and we cannot unify by words alone.
You're right about that. Because we'll
So I mean
continue
that's
speaking
so
and
it is a complex situation that we have, but it's not impossible. But we just have to unify. We have to start thinking collectively. Like collectively, how can we work together to change our condition? And when I say by our condition, we're talking about Africans on a diaspora and a continent, right? That's a lot of
yeah,
people with a lot of different skill sets, talents, and experience, with a lot of resources, with connections, right? So you got to
yeah,
think about it. So I may know someone that knows someone that could help. So we
yeah,
will have to attack, if you will, this our problem of not having the unification, the capital, and the resources. We're gonna have to do it collectively. It has to be intentional. And I love these videos, streaming. We have to continue to communicate, but after we
yeah,
communicate, we have to be ready to execute our mission.
yeah, certainly. And
Thank
at the
you.
same time, we also have to continue selling this
Thank you.
idea of the African
Make
nationalism,
that happen.
this principle of uh, having
Hello.
people of African descent united and having a common nationality, because it's very important. Nationalism is what drives nations to become great. And if we mix this with Pan Africanism, we can really attain the United States of Africa. And having a unified Africa has been the dream for so many people. So this is the time for us as Africans to embrace the United States of Africa vision. Uh, Let me see who's watching. Good morning, watching from Southern Cameroon. And then watching from Windhoek, Namibia. Thanks for watching. Keep on sharing and spreading Pan Africanism, because the more you share it, the more it spreads like wildfire. So we need to have that kind of spirit. And if you are a new subscriber, just make sure that hit the follow button, click see first, so that you can be able to get all the information that we publish on the page. So this is the time for Africa and people of African descent at home and abroad to demonstrate that Pan-African solidarity and come to the realization that we are one African nation. I believe that the moment we start seeing ourselves as a nation, using the same kind of principle that Jews have used to be successful, then we can be a successful and prosperous African nation. Because the Jewish people never forget their homeland. They don't forget about their country, even if they are American citizens. But when it comes to the matters of nationalism, their country Israel comes first, and they are loyal to their country. Even if they have Kenyan citizenship, they'll still be loyal to their country. This is the kind of loyalty that we need for Africans in Africa, and also the Africans in the diaspora. And this is the time and the moment for people of African descent to begin supporting United States of Africa project. We know that there are people in Africa that have a lot of financial capital at their disposal. Some of them are banking, most of it in Western banks, but they can play a very fundamental role in supporting United States of Africa project. And I believe that they need to step forward so that they can support the realization of United States of Africa project, and so that we can be able to carry out all these projects that we are talking about. Shonta, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I kind of have a bad connection this morning. But yes, I can hear you.
Okay, then you can make a contribution.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying. I just really want to be a part of the solution. And so, you know, right now, with this COVID-19, I do believe that we could still, do business with each other virtually. I was thinking, how I could, put products on my website to sell. I have shipping accounts with all the major, shippers, DHL, FedEx, and et cetera. So whenever I'm faced with a problem, I want to help to identify a solution as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
One of the things I learned working in corporate America for 20 years is agility, right?
yeah,
So you have to be agile. You have to learn how to adapt quickly to changing conditions. And so
certainly.
so one of the things I would like to do is, we are consumers. We consume wheat. In terms of we, I'm talking Black Americans, because I know our market very well. But also we're entrepreneurs. We're also very skilled. So those are the skill sets that we could leverage, to help bring about this change that we're talking about. So, I'm just encouraging people, if you have any ideas on ways that we could leverage, our resources and our skill sets right now in the midst of this coronavirus, pandemic, then, just reach out to me, reach out to, and I'm sorry, could you say your name for me? I am kind of new to the organization. I don't want to mispronounce it, but just reach out to the president so that we can begin to take action on some of these ideas. What I mean by that is, let's say someone says, okay, I want to start shipping products from
Yeah,
from Ghana to the United States. Okay, so what does that look like? What is that end to end process, right? How do I get the shipment here quickly? And how do we exchange, the capital, the money, right?
yeah,
That's the challenge that I'm seeing when I'm doing business in Africa, is that the payment systems, like when I do business with China, they use
yeah,
PayPal, Alibaba, these different pay systems. But there
yeah,
we have, but we don't. I can't use those same pay systems when I'm doing business with some countries in Africa. For what I'm saying? So that has to be changed, because if I can't send
yeah,
you my currency to purchase your product, then there's that defeats the entire purpose, right? So how do
yeah.
we
There are some
establish?
countries that really do not have that technology. Uh, for example, Nigeria does not have PayPal, does not work.
Exactly, and that it is so funny that you bring that up, because there are properties that we're interested in, that I have investors that are interested in, but we have to build these payment systems, form of
Yeah,
exchange, so that we can be able to facilitate this mission. So and it's not just that. India is also challenged with the same thing. China just did a
yeah,
really, really good job at building their economic financial infrastructure, and we could learn a lot from that. You know,
Yeah, certainly.
absolutely.
There's a project that we are working on, the payment system, and that can really help having a Pan-African payment system. And also, since you have a website, we can be sharing the details so that we see which products we can get, for example, from Ghana and many other African countries, and find ways in which they can be sold there in the U.S.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I'm
So,
here.
hello, you can hear me.
Yes, I hear you.
I'm saying we can find ways in which we can see which products that we can sell in US, and which products that the African Americans are making that we can sell in Africa, and through that we'll be exchanging capital and empowering each other. At the same time, United States of Africa announced that we are going to be promoting black-owned businesses. So what people need to do is to make a video promo about what they do, and also send us the link of their page, and we are going to be promoting black-owned businesses to give them visibility, and at the same time to help these businesses, to network these businesses. By publishing their details on the page, they'll be able to network among themselves to see who is providing which service, or who is providing which product, thereby creating a business network. And since the Inter-Africa trade deal was already signed, as we wait for it to take off, we need to position ourselves by creating a business directory that will have all these African-owned businesses in Africa and also in the diaspora.
Yes, I agree with that. And that's something we can begin working on now, the database registry. I have demand for shea butters, for nut butters, for essential oils right now, and I can't get them. So, and if I do, I can get them through other distributors, but I want to work directly with those people that are, in Ghana, that's making the shea butters and the different nut butters. I have demand for coconut oil because people are starting to make their own hair care products.
Yeah,
And so
and
we have demand for that right now. I just can't exchange. I know where to locate the product, but just acquiring it and paying for it, with a safe process is the challenge.
yeah, we are going to find out ways in which you can be able to access these products. And since we have our members, for example, in Ghana, these can really help in having a direct connection between the farmers, and so that we can buy directly from them.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we are going to close up. Any final words?
No, we just need to unify now.
Uh, Thank you very much for your participation. I also call upon people of African descent at home and abroad to come together. Let us work towards the realization of United States of Africa vision. Having a unified African nation is the only hope for Black people to regain lost respect and dignity. when we have economic power, then there'll be no racism, because racism is about who is in control, who is controlling the capital. And this is the time for us to support Pan-African causes and be part of the solution. Because for a very long time, Pan-African has been talking about what is ailing Africa, but now we need to focus on the solutions. And there is no better time for us to come together and begin creating the institutions that Africa needs than this time when we have a pandemic. Until next time, stay tuned to United States of Africa, and have a great day wherever you are.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Right here from United States of Africa.